Hello and welcome back to Popcorn Cinema. I'm your host, Noah Sullivan, and today we will be talking about There Is Someone in Your House. This movie honestly disappointed me. When I saw the trailers, I was expecting something that would be pretty entertaining, and this movie got out to a really strong start in the beginning, but I felt like as time went by, we just progressively got worse and worse, and that was unfortunate, but let's talk about it. Before we begin, I'd just like to take a quick moment to remind you guys to like, comment, and subscribe because that helps the channel out greatly. Now that that's out of the way, without further ado, let's talk about There's Someone in Your House. This movie follows a group of characters, and I'm not even trying to make a joke here. I'm actually just gonna look at the IMDb real quick just to see those characters because they were all thoroughly unmemorable. So we've got Makani Young, Ollie, Alex, Zach, Darby, and Rodrigo, and to a lesser extent, Caleb. Most of those people I named have nothing to do with the plot and are just kind of there. In fact, this is probably the most disjointed friend group I've ever seen. Every single time I saw these people hanging out together, I just thought to myself, wow, these people would never be friends in real life. It felt so unrealistic. It took me out of the movie. Anyways, this movie kicks off with an immediate execution by our hash-slinging slasher, so to call him, which was actually a great start. I like that. We got down to the brass tacks, no fluff, no filler. We just got down to it. And immediately from the first killing, we see that this killer seems to target people who have done things in the past. For example, the person who he kills, whom again, I need to check IMDb, was it Macon? Yes. Macon was a football player and he beat up this other kid named Caleb who I talked about earlier. And that is why this person slashed him, or at least that's what we're led to believe, but the way the movie ends makes me think maybe he didn't really care so much about what these people have done, or maybe he did, but we'll get to it. Dang it wasn't Macon, it was Jackson Pace. Jackson Pace was the one who was executed. Anyways, after Jackson is slashed, things kind of play out in the same way 13 Reasons Why did. It was divisive. You had some people who were upset, some people were saying he was a dick. It just depends who you asked, but everyone was mourning, I guess, in their own ways, or kind of trying to cope with what's going on. But no one really thinks it's a big deal at this point. People just think this is an isolated incident. It's not going to be a serial killer thing. Unfortunately, that is where they are wrong, my friends. I don't know if you can hear that, but someone above me is playing really loud music, so sorry about that. Right, so after the killing of Jackson Pace, a lot of nothing happens other than the whole mourning thing. But then a little further down the line, hold on, before I move on though, I just want to say, obviously stuff happens, but it's not relevant to the plot. A lot of what happens seems to just kind of come out of nowhere, and they're trying to make the movie's runtime last a bit longer. So yes, there's a lot of filler that happens. So a little later, we get to this girl, and she's next on our list. This girl's name is Katie, and much like Jackson, she also didn't get very much screen time. This movie kind of had an issue with trying to make us care about characters that are about to get executed that we've literally had less than 5 minutes to get to know. The only thing Katie did was make a really awkward speech about another character's sexual orientation awkwardly in front of the entire cafeteria, so I'm sure that character enjoyed that. Anyway, Katie's in a church doing whatever it is she's doing, and as that's happening, this podcast goes up on a projector that's like projecting into the church, and it's basically just her, Katie, saying a bunch of super racist things, saying stuff like certain races don't have the same IQ and that some people are just naturally dumber and stuff. And she says that this is a podcast she made, but she uploaded it anonymously, and it was just one episode. She didn't make any more, but obviously she's a racist. So that right there is, again, conforming to the killer's past habits of killing people who have done bad things, or later, as they say, have a secret. So after a little bit of a scuffle, Katie is executed, and from this point on, the movie takes a really downhill spiral into the boring and is getting hard to pay attention to. Although I have to say, I loved Katie's execution. It was brutal. I'm really surprised they actually did what they did. They showed a lot and it was great. The white dress she was wearing in contrast to the red blood that she got all over it looked great. I thought everything about this whole sequence was fantastic. And honestly, same with Jackson's death. I thought it looked amazing. But like I said, going forward, the movie kind of stops making sense. In fact, I'd actually go as far as to say if the movie just ended after Katie's death and it was a short film, I'd actually think it was a good short film. So at this point, it's become pretty clear that it's a serial killer type of thing. There's a curfew instated. The police start stepping up their game. But Zach, another character who I thought was useless but turns out not to be in the end, he's the killer. Zach decides it's a great idea to have a party, a secret party. And the whole point of this is to actually tell your secrets. You know, actually, in a way, that was kind of brilliant because Zach's the killer, but he made a secret party. And he gets to know everybody's secrets that way. Maybe he wasn't even doing a bunch of research the whole time. Maybe he got everything he got on everyone from things he knew prior, and then also from things he got from that party. But anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. So Zach holds a party and it's a secret party and everyone goes to tell their secrets because they're saying they're taking power from the killer because that's the reason why they're being killed. He says that's his only weapon and then someone accurately points out, you know, other than the knife. Yeah, there were a couple issues I have with this sequence. Mainly Rodrigo, useless character number 1, and Alex, useless character number 2. Their secrets are they have a crush on each other and they just kind of openly say that. Now we're led to believe that this group of friends has been friends for a really long time, and I find it really hard to believe that you just say, oh, I like this guy or I like this girl just because secrets are the theme of the party. I feel like you think of something else. It just didn't seem realistic, and that's just circling back to the whole thing where I said none of these friends seem like they like each other or fit together in any way, and it really took me out of the movie. Anyways, Rodrigo got lucky that night, but unluckily for him, he's next on the chopping block because his secret is that he takes painkillers. Yeah, I was like, so what, he takes painkillers? I mean, he was stealing his mom's fentanyl, but that's not as bad as like beating someone up to the point where they have to go to the hospital or being a Nazi on a podcast. It's just medicine, like chill guys. So he gets exposed, the killer chases him around a bit, killer shoves painkillers down his throat, and then it gets slashed, because he's a slasher. And that's the end of Rodrigo. Just like Jackson and Katie, I did not care when he died, because they both had like a couple talking lines and were in the background of some other shots, and then that was it, and then we're expected to care when they died. Honestly, there's not a single character in this movie I really cared about, if I'm being completely honest. Maybe one, but we'll get to him later. Right, so everyone's pulled down to the police station, because that's gonna help, right? And at that point, one of the sheriffs, or I guess, one of the sheriff's tasers goes missing, and Ollie is a character who is actually one of the sheriff's brothers. So, I mean, it was kind of insinuated that Ollie took the taser. So there's this whole like red herring where they kind of make it seem like Ollie's the killer. In fact, it was so much of a red herring that it didn't actually make sense within the universe. The whole plot line was kind of devised just to keep the audience off of their trail from figuring out that Zach was the killer, who's a pretty obvious killer if you actually look back at it, if you've seen the movie. But Ollie, you know, he goes out on, his secret is he's dating the main character. Ollie is dating Makani, and that's only kind of a big deal because everybody thinks Ollie is a psychopath or something. They think he's a weird guy. And one time they're out on a date and, you know, Makani finds a taser, and this is immediately after one of Makani's friends tells her that she thinks it's Ollie, so that kind of solidifies that for her. Yeah, the taser was also used to kill Rodrigo, by the way. But fast forwarding, there's an attempt on Makami's life, and a taser was also involved in that attempt. So that kind of solidifies it even more for her. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, fortunately for her, Ollie is actually arrested, but he doesn't stay in jail for very long because his brother is the sheriff. So he gets out, and the second that Makani gets a text that he gets out, the slasher is coming for her. And then coincidentally, Ollie is also coming for her. So this is where it's revealed that Ollie isn't the slasher, which, again, it didn't make sense. I get that they were trying to misdirect, but if you're gonna misdirect, it has to make sense. So Makani runs into school trying to get away from Ollie. She runs into Caleb. Caleb gets stabbed in the back, and then the killer puts his murder weapon that he's used to kill everybody else in Makani's hand, getting her fingerprints and DNA and everything all over it. So at that point, Ollie runs in and he's like, "Are you okay?" And she doesn't know what to think because she thought it was him. And the rest of her friends who are alive also run in, and they have this reunion, and Caleb gets taken to the hospital. He survived and he's fine and all that. And Ollie and Makani actually make up their differences, and she feels like a jerk for thinking he was a murderer, but you know, as you should. Anyways, fast forwarding even more through more filler that doesn't matter. There's a lot of like interpersonal dramas in this movie that feel like they shouldn't be there because it's about a slasher, but go off, I guess. This movie was like 1/4 slasher, 3/4 stupid stuff no one cares about. Teen drama, I guess. Anyways, they find out that the killer is at the corn maze because they live in a town, they live in Osborne, Nebraska, and apparently corn is important there. So they're having their corn festival, and they find out that the killer's probably there, and some of their friends are there too. So they go to save them. Ollie gets stabbed by the killer. The killer kills Zach's dad. Zach hates Zach's dad, by the way, or Zach hates his dad. And then mask comes off. The killer's Zach. Woo, big surprise. I mean, it was a surprise, it came out of nowhere, so it wasn't a good twist. And then, yeah, did I mention Zach killed Ollie? Zach killed Ollie. And then, you know, Makani just kind of stabs him. He goes on this monologue before he gets stabbed about how, like, and his whole platform throughout the whole movie has been that the rich sucks, specifically his dad, and that they need to reclaim, like, the town for the poor or something, like, everyone deserves a chance. But that was all BS because he is part of the problem, and Makani tells him that he's part of the problem. So Ollie on the floor distracts him because he brings his taser, and he fires off a shot, and it misses, but that provides Makani with a window of opportunity to just stab him. So Zach is down for the count, the day is saved, everyone survives, the whole friend group is happy, and they all forget that Rodrigo died because everyone else who was assaulted survived. Other than that random football player in the beginning. Forgot his name, but I'm not checking IMDb again. Just kidding, didn't have to, his name was Jackson Pace. Anyways, yeah, this movie sucked. And I wanted to like this movie. I thought the trailer looked really good, and honestly, the first 30 minutes really piqued my interest. But then it stopped being about the slasher and started being about these interpersonal conflicts, and I honestly couldn't care. Like, don't try and make me care about characters who you're just gonna kill off later, or at least give me a reason to care about them. If anything, and I mentioned this earlier, there was one character I cared about, and that was honestly Ollie. I feel like that's because he was kind of given this opportunity for redemption. Like, everybody kind of hated him. He got arrested, they thought he was a killer, and then he proved he wasn't, and then he sacrificed himself, not only for the girl he loved, but to prove that he is not a sociopath. Which, his story came full circle. Good for him, good for you, bud. That's it though, there's not much there. This story could have been cool and it wasn't. Like, cause the only people who really had bad secrets were the first two, Jackson and Katie. Everyone else's secrets, it felt like truth or dare in first grade. Like, hey, I dare you to ask the teacher for extra homework, but you won't do that. That's what it felt like. Like, oh, you take painkillers? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know you were in pain. Or, oh, let me say the main character's secret, the protagonist's secret is that she writes poetry. Like, wow. But yeah, I thought this movie had a lot of potential. The actual fight scenes or the slashing scenes were done really well. It's just the plot sucked. I don't know. I give this movie a 4.5 out of 5 because it wasn't terrible. I did get bored, but it did have some redeeming qualities, and this actual slashing looked very good. So I'll give them that. Anyways, that's all I've got for There's Someone in Your House. If you guys had any other differences in opinions than I did about this movie, let me know in the comments. I'd love to talk about it. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank every single one of you guys who made it to the end of the video. That really helps me out, because all YouTube cares about is watch time and user retention. So if you did make it this far, why not take it one step further and leave a like, comment, or subscribe to keep up with what I'm doing. Or you could also support me by following me on my Instagram, which will be in the description of the video, or maybe I'll even do the little thingy on the bottom, who knows. But like always, I will see you guys next time, and have a good night. Goodbye.